Hey guys, welcome to the LT Brings the Heat podcast. We're your hosts, Sean Laird and Adam Heisler, where we talk about baseball and sports performance. With topics ranging from coaching, business, and player development, our goal is to bring you a no BS approach to development in baseball and sports performance. Hope you guys enjoy. Let's rock and roll. All right, hey guys, welcome to another episode of LT Brings the Heat. We got an awesome guest today, the head coach of the University of South Alabama baseball team, Mark Calvi. He's a guy that I did not play for myself, but he's a guy that has been leading South Alabama the last 10 years to multiple regional teams, multiple Sun Belt championships, phenomenal pitching staffs throughout the years. This is a really great conversation. We talk about his story a little bit, and he talks about basically what's the common, the common theme year to year for him having great staffs. Adam, how'd you feel, and what's some big things you took away from the podcast?
I think the biggest thing is neither one of us played for him, but yet we got to sit here and talk for an hour about baseball just from the relationships we built. And I mean, I know South Alabama is a special place for both of our baseball, and not only that, but just the relationships he built. Just hearing just what he looks for in players, and I can't stress enough how he talks about the self-made players and not depending on your coach all the time or depending on us too. I mean, we try to talk to our kids about how they need to be the best version of themselves, and it's not our job to be helicopter coaches. When they go to these schools or they go off to play in high school, college, whatever it is they have to know what works for them, and it takes them to that next level. And it's not our job to take credit for them. It's all the kids' stuff. And I just love how he hit on that stuff there. What were some things that stood out to you?
One thing that I really loved is talking about his environment, that he wants to be a winning program. He is a winning program. He's wanting to recruit those winners. And the big thing, and you'll hear me talk about it, hear him talk about that, is when you hear somebody, I want to recruit winners, he's talking about guys that have the work ethic. He's talking about guys that have accountability. Same things Adam was just saying. But also he's talking about guys that want to be a part of something special. He's talking about guys that feel like that they can carry weight on their shoulders to help build and continue to build teams year to year. They're going to get better and better and better and better and better. And, recruiting winners are guys that think they can win in no matter the situation. And that was some stuff that I love hearing things like that. And to kind of add on to what you were saying, and also like, the experience factor of being an athlete at this next level. And you hear coaches talk about this all the time. It's like, I want guys that have been in different sports. I want guys that are quick twitch. I want guys that are athletic. We keep hearing the same theme over and over. And for you listeners here, like, you need to take that to the heart, and you need to understand this. And you're going to hear him talk about that again. South's a top 25 baseball program. But it's no different than, these other SEC programs or these other, ACC programs. And they're looking for the same type of player. And those other programs being a top 5 power conference, and South being a mid-major, they're going to get a lot of those guys. But, all of them are looking for the same type of player. So if you're not one of those guys, you need to find and figure out how to be one of those guys.
Yeah, and the last thing I want to touch on is he'll bring up the 2018 season when they were top 15 preseason and then had 10 injuries that struck them. And it was really cool to see him take accountability. He didn't point fingers at anybody, and he'll talk more in depth about how that taught him to kind of what to do and what not to do, and not to feel sorry for yourself. And it's the next man up. And he goes really in detail. But one thing, like I said, that stood out was just there was no pointing the fingers. He pointed at himself and said he should have done a better job at it. And it just, as a person, like, you can't respect somebody more than that. That is, hey, I made a mistake. This is what it is. And it wasn't even his fault. It was just the injuries that happened. And it's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff here and how to learn how to be a leader here, guys. And so we really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I know we really did. If you're a baseball guy, you're going to really enjoy this episode. Again, leave that 5-star review on that Apple app so we can continue doing this for you guys and keep giving these awesome interviews for you. So hope you guys enjoy, and see you later. Hey, guys, welcome to another episode of LT Brings the Heat podcast. We're your hosts, Sean Laird and Adam Heisler. We've got a special guest today. The head baseball coach at the University of South Alabama, Mark Calvi. Calvi, I did not play for him, but, I always consider him part of that Jag family and part of that family. And he welcomed me, just had a couple conversations with him. So this is a really special podcast for me, as it is for Adam, and Adam and him are pretty close as well. How you doing today, Coach?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks so much for having me, man. It's an honor to be on here with you guys.
Awesome. Yeah, we appreciate you hopping on and taking the time. Kind of walk us through the change and with COVID-19, and kind of break it down the season and kind of what kind of changed your schedule day in and day out now. Like what's your day-to-day like right now with all this going on?
Yeah, Fortunately, man, for me and my marriage, Dr. Erdman has allowed me to come into the office. So I get in here for a couple hours a day. They labeled me as an essential employee. I never thought I'd have essential next to my name, but yeah. So I at least I come in. It breaks it up for me, man, because I was weed whacking the same piece of grass at my house for way too long. So this has just allowed me in the office. And man, without games, I think people they look at it, and you guys know because you're on the inside, but they're like, wow, baseball coach, what a great, you go and you coach, and what a great. Well, we spend more time in the office. There's a lot more business things to do, and just with scholarships and scheduling. And I'm fortunate, man. I have great people around me. I have great assistants, and they're they keep me going. But there's just a lot of things from the business side, especially now, man, with nobody knows, like we were talking earlier before we came on, with the rosters and what the NCAA is going to do. You got to make some moves. You got to clear some room. You were going to lose some guys to the draft, and I know we'll get to that. And then now you're not, because you had 3 or 4 guys that you thought were going to be 10th to 20th rounders, and now they're not going to get drafted, and they're not signing for free agents because they got their year back, and you had planned on them signing. So you signed some guys coming in. You guys know, if you talk to any competitive Division I baseball coach, they've said the same thing. So it's just, you're here trying to juggle it. And it's almost like, man, you want to play the game, but you can't really play the game like you want to until you know the rules. So we really don't know the rules. So I've just I've been speculating for the last month as to what they're going to do. And this way, I just know if they stay at 11.7 and 27, we'll be fine. We'll make it, and I won't have to rush and make mistakes and start letting guys go, if they come out as soon as they meet on it and come out with it in mid-July, because that's a long ways away in terms of helping kids get ready. Because you also want to be fair to the players that you let go and give them a chance to maybe catch on with somebody else. Mm-hmm. You can sit there and wait and, for lack of a better term, screw them over. And I don't want to do that. Yep. You want to give them a chance to hook on with somebody else. And they haven't, again, I know we talked earlier that the one-time transfer rule, nobody knows if they can do that either. I don't think they're going to vote yes on that, but it's out there. It's on the table. But, guys, it's just totally different, man. It was totally something new. It wasn't like you can look back or you can call somebody and say, hey, man, I know you guys went through this 20 years ago, or listen, this is what happened 20 years ago when this virus came through, and this is what we did. And I know times are different, but this is kind of similar. There is none of that. So every day is just it's something new that everything is every first is a new first, man. It really is. So you just try to make the best of it, and you try to make good decisions, and you got to put the program first and foremost. And that's what we've done in terms of making our decision and scheduling. And scheduling's been a challenge. You asked what I do during the day. You got some teams that are, that have pulled out on us. Our 21 schedule was done in the fall, and now we've lost 3 weekend series. We've since filled those series, but now, getting in the air, you got to stay on the ground and save some money. And so you're trying to put together, and you guys know me, I like to play a good schedule. I really do. Sometimes a little too hard, I think, but you want to put a good schedule out there. And I think, after the dust has settled, I think our schedule is still very, very competitive. But yeah, man, it'll be different. The travel parties will be smaller, and we're not going to get on planes. So you leave a day earlier, and, you play a doubleheader on Saturday and you drive back Sunday, and just things like that we've had to, work through. And I'm very, like I said, I'm very, very fortunate, man. I've got some great guys around me that help me with that. I certainly couldn't do it all myself. It's too much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I love that you brought that up, because it's new for everybody. There's nobody that you can look back at and say, hey, how do you adjust when you went through this period? Have you been able to stay in contact with your players, like do team Zoom meetings or with the coaches, and kind of help them, I guess, giving them a training regimen to do why they're not able to do it right now?
A bunch of them. We stay in touch with them. We haven't Zoomed in terms of with the team. I call a couple guys a day. I know Pro and Brad's with the pitchers all the time. And Logan, our new strength coach, has done a phenomenal job with those guys. Yeah. It was so cool because they were starting to do things online, that training app that they could see what they were doing, and they had their phones. Typically, I don't let guys have there's one guy with their phone in the player, and that's the guy that's running the music. If it's good music,
Yeah.
if it's bad, they don't bring their phone in either. But and obviously in the weight room, it's like, hey guys, phones, leave the phones in your car in your locker. And now it's like, the phone, they bring it in, and these are guys like working. So they started to get used to that before this ever came. So in terms of making that transition of not having the strength coach right around you, which is always the best, from form and function and things of that nature, you want there's certain movements that you have to have right, or you can hurt yourself. But I think he laid a really good foundation for these guys to, okay, if we have to go online with it, it's not as good as doing it right here, but these guys have an idea of how to do it and checking in and getting their reps done and getting their work in. The hardest thing, man, was finding a facility. You guys know that.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
You get your work in. So you got to old school it, go in the garage and pick up a lawnmower and do squats, and get guys doing that, which is, you know what? And I think one of the goods, there's going to be goods that come out of this. There's a lot of bad, but there's going to be some good. Is that I think kids I think they've had to try to be their own resource again, their best resource.
Yep.
Which back in the day, I'm not that old, I'm not that young. We made L nets. We used old balls. We taped up bats. We did our own workouts, man.
Yep,
You became your best resource. And I think these guys, they've been forced to have to be their own workout partner, which is good because a lot of these guys have gotten away from it. Now, there's been really great instructors like you two, and these kids, but they rely on you guys too much. Well, I'm going to go to Adam. He'll straighten me out. Or you know what? I'm going to go see Sean. He'll get me right.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of going in the backyard, setting the tee up with a net and working on things on your own, they're relying too much on other people. So now I think they've had to be a little more self-reliant and a little more self-sufficient. Both are very important as they get older and they turn into men, or, you got to be able to rely on yourself and do things.
Absolutely. That's phenomenal right there too, because so many kids nowadays, they don't understand. I always tell them, like, your best coach is going to be yourself. Like, you could have the best coach out in front of you and giving you the best information in the world, but if you're not really taking it in and actually implementing that, you're never going to be able to reach your max peak. It's never going to be able to happen.
That's right. These guys, and you've got some self-starters and hustlers like you guys that love what you do and can help these kids so much. I just think we have the bigger, better, stronger player, and because of the technology and guys that know what they're doing from a strength conditioning, from a nuts and bolts standpoint. But it's also taking the onus off the kid too, that's dangerous, So I think some of the onus has been put back on them. You want to get good. You don't have Coach Laird or Coach Heiser to work with you right now. You got to go figure some stuff out. So I think from that standpoint, I think we'll see some benefits moving forward. I really do.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm really, the silver lining in this is, as coaches, is we're going to be able to see the kids that actually worked their ass off on their own and did things on their own and actually figured it out. And the guys that are, I always like to call them pretenders. I mean, you guys know I'm a little blunt and stuff like that, but like those guys, like, I'm going to immediately know who the guys are that I'm going to back up 100%. And certain guys I'm going to have to push, like, hey, you got to change your level. You got to reach that next level because you haven't been doing it the last 2 months.
That's right.
But one thing I would love you to kind of break down is kind of walk us through your coaching history a little bit, kind of walk us through what led you to South Alabama. I'd love for the listeners here, the podcast, to kind of hear everything you have to say from, how you grew as a coach and actually what got you to South, and obviously turning in South. I want to say, South Alabama's always been a great program, but when you got there, obviously you helped us reach another level and consistency with draft picks and getting us back to where we used to be. And obviously the goal is to get the College World Series one day. Could you kind of break that down for us, Coach?
Sure. Yeah. I started at FIU in 1994. That was my first season. I was actually hired in November of 93. I had been released. I was in the minor leagues with Seattle for a couple of years, and I got released and, didn't know, I was thinking maybe law school or law enforcement. And, it's so funny, man, when you can look back and certain things happen in your life and you don't really know why. You figure it out down the line. And this was one of them. I had met some people that last year so I was an 86 graduate from high school, and I had a bad injury, a severe break in my arm in the fall of 89. So I would have been done in 90. And I took a medical red shirt, and I played in the 90-91 season. And I had a coach that came in who I never would have played for had I not hurt myself. I had a coach come in the fall of 90, and he's the best coach I've ever had to this day, a guy named Pat Jones. And he's with the Mets right now. He's been a big league scout for 10 years. He does trades in the National League. And he was the best coach I ever had. And thank God I had a limited amount of time with him. But so I played in 90-91. I was supposed to be done in 90. I got hurt, obviously, in 89-90, came back, and I got to play for Pat Jones. And then I signed. Dan Jennings, DJ signed me way back when. DJ signed me. So when I got released, Pat Jones said, hey, the pitching coach at FIU, he took a job with Metro-Dade. He's with the Miami-Dade Police Department. And he said, I already called Danny Price to let him know that you'd be great for the job. He was trying to push me to stay in either coaching pro ball. He was trying to get me into scouting. And after getting released, as you guys know, that's when you're done playing baseball, it's one of the most confusing times ever in your lives. 23, 24, we all go through it. You're like, okay, what's next? Very few know their next move. And I was no different, but I had some options there because I met some great people in the game, Pat Jones being one of them. Al Baird, who was the GM for the Royals for 7 or 8 years. And, I had the good fortune of playing for those guys and meeting them down in South Florida. So I had some good people behind me. And so they called Coach Price at FIU. And my wife at the time was like, you know what, do it. And so I went into it, and here we are 27, 28 years later. This was my approach. I swear to God, I wasn't even thinking about coaching. I was like, you know what, let's see how this goes. I was like, why not? I'm 25 years old. Honestly, guys, I was like, what the hell? Let's do it. Let's give it a go. And I got in there, and literally my first day on the job, I had 3 weeks till opening day, and we played Campbell opening day. And I'll never forget. So I was a catcher, and Jeff Keith, who my Friday night guy then, Jeff Keith, who played up to AAA, played with the Giants. I still talk to him to this day. That's another thing about this profession. I have guys that are 40, 45 that, it's just a privilege and an honor to be involved in their lives. But he said, hey, Calvi, what time do you want me to go down to work? What time do you want me to go down to start? And I didn't have an answer. I didn't know. Like I didn't know. I was a catcher. I was just down there when they're ready to go. And I had to think. I'm like, you know what? Everyone's different. What time? How much time do you need? How long do you like to? Well, I've used being a reliever, so I don't need to be down there an hour. I like to, to come right in from the bullpen. I'm like, well, then that's what we'll do. So it went from that, like having no clue when my starting pitcher needed to warm up to, the following year being 50-11 and coaching like 5 or 6 draft picks on the mound. And so FIU, I have so many fond memories, man. It was so awesome. And Coach Price gave me the opportunity to start my career, kind of the whole, let's see how it goes. And one year led to another. And I'm like, you know what, man, let's get serious about this Omaha thing. I think we can do it. Because when I grew up, man, again, I was an 86 grad in high school. There was no college baseball on TV, guys. Like you'd get to sit there and watch the College World Series. And for 2 weeks, I'd be glued into that event, and then it would go away. So I didn't really know a whole lot of what Division I baseball entailed. And so I cut my teeth. It was a great learning and proving grounds there at FIU. We played a great schedule, and we went to 7 or 8 regionals, and we finally broke through in 01 in the Super Regional. And, by that time, I was entrenched in this coaching profession. And then I was fortunate enough. I was there at FIU for 11 seasons. And then the pitching coach at South Carolina took a head job at Old Dominion, and Coach Tanner, called Coach Price and said, hey, the assistant there, Jim Toman, who was a grad assistant at FIU, but he was Ray's right-hand man for 10 years at NC State in South Carolina, said, hey, there's a guy down at FIU that he recruits and they pitch it, and that's our guy. And I was fortunate enough. Coach Tanner gave me a call, and I got that job, and I was there for 6 years and had a great experience, won a national championship, and had some unbelievable times, good and bad. And then Dr. Erdman, long story short, Dr. Erdman Joel Erdman had sent an email to Coach Tanner and our AD and said, hey, Coach Kittrell's retiring after the year. I have interest in Mark. Would want to know if you will let me speak to him, when you guys are done playing. And so I remember Coach Tanner came to my room. We were in Omaha, and he said, "Hey, do you know Coach Kittrell is retiring?" And initially, I thought, because I was very familiar with the South Alabama program, being at FIU and playing them for so long in the Sun Belt, we got into the Sun Belt in '99, and I had so much respect for not just Coach Kit, but the program and the players. And I was concerned at first. I thought maybe it was a health issue. He was, I know he was a little older then. And I was like, man, what happened? Is he okay? Is it his health? He said, no, he's just retiring, and they'd like to talk to you to be their head coach in waiting. Would you be interested? And I said, absolutely. I would. I was 41. I knew it was time. I knew I was ready for it. Or I thought I was ready for it. You're never quite ready for something like this. And so we stayed in Omaha. We won it. And the next thing I know, man, I was here on a visit looking around, and, I had a great feeling, and it was all about Joel. It was all about the history of the program, because I knew how much you guys had won. I know they weren't winning quite as much as as Coach Kit would have liked at the time. And, but I also knew this was a great place, and Dr. Erdman sold it for me because he's the right guy. I'm like you guys. I can't work for just anybody, man. I got to be around somebody with morals and that tell the truth at all times. And I knew he was that guy, and I said, it's time to do it. And, man, that was 10 years ago. It's crazy, but that was 10 years ago, and here we are. And it's been unbelievable, man. I have no regrets. I love this place. I have so much pride in this place. It's been a lot of hard work, but it's been super rewarding. I know in my heart, the reason why I came here, I know we can get to the College World Series. I know we can, and we have the resources here and the backing. We can do it. It's not easy, but guys, I love it here, man. I got to, like you two guys, for instance, man. I've met alumni like you that have embraced me, man, took me in. It's like anywhere else. Not everyone's going to love you, but you know what I mean? You got to do what you got to do. And I absolutely love this place. I have no regrets, and we're going to get to the World Series one day.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, I totally believe that. I mean, you are on the right path. And I mean, I think a couple of years ago, the team that had the injury bug, and we'll get to that later.
Oh man, that 18 team guys that was ready to go, man.
That was the team. And I kind of want to hit on that later on, but right now let's get back to what were so when you took the head coaching job, so you had been the National Pitching Coach of the Year, been a pitching coach, but also a former player as a catcher. What were some things when you took the head coaching job that you really wanted to install and build in your players and build in your culture, since it was finally your time to build it your way?
Yeah, I just, man, in athletics, it's all about winning, right? You got to win. I'm not in, and yes, great relationships, but if I sat here and said, yeah, I'm in it for the friendships and that's, to me, that's part of it. But you get in this to win, and I think you recruit wins. You got to recruit good players, but you got to win. But then you got to recruit winners. And I think the biggest thing that I learned at South Carolina, and even at FIU, I recruited a lot on makeup. There's a bunch of guys now throwing 90, but can that 90 work? Does he have what it takes to make that 90 work? Is this guy what kind of guy is he in between starts? What kind of work habits does he, is he a winner? Does he want to win? Does winning mean everything to him? So I thought it was really, I brought that with me here. It's not cutting edge stuff, but I tried to recruit guys with makeup that I knew wanted to win. I'm not saying angels. I'm not saying choir boys. If you have too many choir boys, you got a choir, and I've never seen a choir win a championship. That's how I look at it. So I wanted tough kids. I wanted guys that wanted to win. They didn't need to be angels. They just needed to love their team and love the program and want to win and do whatever they had to do to win the right way. Go to class, be good people. And that, honestly, man, that's what I told my assistants when we got here. I'm like, I don't care about a guy throwing 92. That's great. We've got to vet these guys. You've got to vet them out and find out that you've got the right guys in here, man. They're not every kid that throws 90 is right for this program. Not every kid that can hit a home run or run a 6.5 60 is right for South Alabama. We've got to get the right kind of kid with the right tools, the right skills, and then you put them all together, and hopefully you have enough of them. And then it's every single day. You practice like it's at game speed, and you just pound it into their heads how important it is to win at practice, to win in the classroom, And then you make them accountable, man, and you don't settle for anything less. If they start doing things that will either make them be a loser in life or a loser on the field, you correct it. And whatever means you need to use to correct it and snap them back or get your message across, that's who I am. So everyone's different. Some guys you got to be more stern. Some guys you got to give them a hug. Some family backgrounds are different, as you guys know. Some guys, didn't have a father. Some guys had a father but didn't care, so I've been more of a father to them. It's just tough love, but they got to know that you love them and that you love to win, and that's what this program's been about. And that's how we got it going pretty good, and that's how I think when we make it there to the World Series, it'll be because of that formula. It's not going to change. If it does change, I'm in trouble. If it changes, I'm in trouble, and I need to get out of it. And I'm 51, I'm going on 52. I don't know how much longer I'm going to do it. I'm not going to do it past 60, I don't think. But, as long as I have the right guys in here and the right coaches around me, it's all good for me. But that's what we've done, man. And you guys know enough, Adam, you especially, enough guys that have been in the program here since I got here, that's kind of how I do things. It's all about the program and winning and doing things the right way and representing the University of South Alabama in the right way. And just when you're done, it's not about playing pro ball, or if that happens, that's great. If that's a byproduct of it, that's great. But it's about, being a good boyfriend, being a good husband, being a good father, being a good person. And hopefully some of the lessons that they learned with that stuff is here. I know a lot of people talk about it, but I have failed these guys if they don't leave here with some better life skills than when they got here. And that's what it's all about for me. It is.
Yeah, and I love that saying. We're gonna win. We're gonna recruit winners, because it encapsulates so much. It encapsulates the swagger, which I know you as a coach, like when I first saw you as a coach, like the swagger that you had and how that you do have, like that carries off and show that those other players follow that. And you want to recruit guys that have that swagger, that have that discipline, all of those things, the accountability, the hard work, that encapsulates recruiting winners and being a winner. And I love that. I love that saying right there. And I respect that a lot in that aspect of things too, because, like we were mentioning before, is, you didn't know me, and you accepted me on an alumni. There's a lot of colleges, a lot of coaches that they come into a new place and they kind of just push off alumni off to the side. And that's definitely not you. You want USA, you want that South Alabama, like we're a family, we're going to build this, we're going to be winners. This is what we do.
Absolutely.
I love that. I love that.
And I had so much respect for you former players, even guys that I didn't coach against. I know when I was at FIU, I was at South Carolina, so we didn't play when you guys were here at South Alabama. But I just had so much respect for the program and the former players that, I didn't need to be here 10 years to be part of the family. I'm like, okay, the day I set foot on campus, it's like, all right, I'm part of the family now. And it wasn't me accepting you guys. It was you guys. Right? You guys were here. You guys helped lay the groundwork for this program. And even guys that played in the 60s and 70s, and right, I was the stranger. I was the one that had to be accepted in here, and a lot of guys, you guys are just two of many, but that treated me so great. But that was so important, man. It's a big family. And that's why getting this new building and having it sucked because we couldn't do the alumni thing this October because of the building, but we're going to get back on it. And just having all you guys, even guys that didn't play for me, man, it doesn't matter. Having all you guys back, seeing the different generations, our players seeing former players with 2 kids hanging on them and a wife, right? That's going to be them one day, man. You are examples, not just for them when they're players, but when you come back for alumni events. And, that's just huge. So listen, man, you guys, it made me feel like I was part of the family from day one. And like I said, I absolutely love it here.
Yeah, and you mentioned the building, the weight room on, in the new clubhouse and all that stuff. How important was that for you to have those kind of facilities upgraded to get to that next level, not only for recruiting, but to create the environment? Like, how integral was that for you, and how much did you push that in that process?
It was super important. And you guys know Dr. Erdman. He's a baseball guy. He's phenomenal. He's the one that realized it. He kind of came, he said, Mark, what do you think about a new building? And I was like, yeah, let's go. Let's do it. Like, he came to me. I wasn't, and I knew we needed it, but I wasn't harping on him and every single day for the facilities. But he's got such a great feel for what the landscape of college athletics and the facilities and things of that nature. But yeah, it's been huge. The funny thing is that I swear, man, I don't know how we're going to quantify this with recruiting. It's going to help. It's certainly not going to hurt. It's going to help us recruiting. And it's funny. It's like, I want these facilities for the guys that we have, that it's almost like I won't like a kid that comes here because our clubhouse was better than Southern Miss's, or you know what I mean? That like the materialistic kid that have these material things because it's the day and times. But you know as well as I do, man, if you got the right guy, they will dress in the parking lot and they'll work out. They'll do pull-ups and they'll work out in a 10 by 10 weight room. And if they want it bad enough, they'll go out and kick your ass for somebody that has a 10,000 square foot weight room and a. But I just think if you have the right guys in there and the right facilities, you have the right makeup. I just think, man, you just have more resources for your players. And then ultimately it is going to help recruiting, because just from the, looking at when you walk in, just the curb appeal and like, okay, this is a legit program. This place takes baseball serious. They wouldn't have built these facilities if they didn't. So from that standpoint, I'm super thrilled that we have it. And then for our guys, they were at a loss for words. I know you guys saw that open, when they first walked in, none of these guys are like, yeah, well, we expect it. And they were just, man, it blew their skirts up to their ears, man. Let me tell you, just watching their faces, it was awesome, and I want that. I want that in our program. I don't want, there's no entitlement. If there is, I get rid of it or we adjust it. That entitlement's dangerous. It's corrosive in any kind of atmosphere. So we stay away from that. Yes, they've got good stuff, but if they can't keep their lockers clean, they'll dress out in the parking lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're gonna keep it nice because you guys. Hey, I'm talking to two guys that helped build this thing, man. You guys played here. This is as much for the alumni as it is our players. Yes, they get to come in it every single day, but when you guys come back, or our pro guys, we have a locker room for them, which is cool, a VIP locker room, and it's just, this is your place to always call home, man. You bring your sons and daughters and wives here, or come watch a game, and this is your place, man. It means a lot. It means a lot to me, to our coaches, and our players, that the alumni really take interest in the program.
No, I couldn't agree more. And me and Sean have talked about this in the past on the podcast, was when we were there at South, it wasn't like it was a bad thing to hang out in the locker room, but it just wasn't built into our culture, the installment. It was as soon as the game's over, you change, you get out, and everybody just goes their separate ways. Same thing with practice. And I think with this new building, you're going to have guys hanging out there 10 hours a day, and they're not going to want to go back to their apartment. They're going to want to hang out, be with the guys, whether it's playing ping pong, PlayStation. Now you have a gym, you have a weight room there, the video access that you can watch videos on. I just think it's going to build so much more, bringing the team even closer together than what it already is.
No doubt. No doubt, Adam. It really is.
Yeah, I'm excited to check it out myself too. All right, so now I want to get back, touch on we'd like to talk about adversity a lot on this podcast. And I would say the injury season, that had to be an adversity standpoint. What did that kind of teach you as a coach, where you have such high expectations, a top 15 team coming into the season, and then literally within a month, just all changed? What did you kind of learn from that?
It started with Drew. It was a little bit different because it was such a devastating injury that these guys saw. I think it affected their psyche. It really did.
Yeah.
I know it did mine. When he had 4 surgeries and losing his eyesight, and just the kind of kid that he was. You hate to see it happen to anybody, but especially a guy like Drew LeBounty, man, the heart and soul and just the greatest kid in the world. He was South Alabama baseball. I think one of the things to encapsulate it, and we had 10 injuries that year. We did. So it was like once we got down to the last game, guys, we had a 49 RPI in the last. We had a chance, even with 10 injuries, man, we had a chance to get into a regional. And I think, and I'm going to take the blame for this, I think I let not just some individuals, but as a team, I think I allowed them to feel sorry for themselves a little too long, and I walked around a little sorry for Drew, sorry for myself, because that team, that was an Omaha type team.
Mm-hmm.
No question. On paper. Now, it's one thing on paper, it's another thing to get on the field, but those guys had been together, man. They had lost, in the finals of a regional 2 years in a row, and so here they are, they're coming back in, and these guys have been together, man. They were part of the fabric of the program, and it was devastating because obviously you don't lose 10 guys at once. It just kept coming, man. Like every week, another guy. So you kind of catch your breath, and then bam, punched in the gut again. I think collectively, I let the program feel a little sorry for itself too long.
Yeah.
And partly because, you know, I felt so bad for guys that were going down that I think I allowed a little bit of softness to come into the program, and that's on me. That's my fault. If I had to do it all over again, I would have been a little more – I'm not saying that it would have worked, but I would have been a little more stern and saying, hey, man, there are no crutches. There are no excuses around here. This is what it is. And that's one of the things I learned. And, you know, when you go through – and it's not – you hate to say, man, because it's such a coined phrase, the next man up, the next man up. Well, when you recruit a kid since he was 15 years old and he loses his eye, you don't say next man up, right? Like that's a slap in the face. You don't say next man up. There is no next man up for that. But you've got to continue, and you've got to find a way to win. And we didn't find enough ways to win. I didn't find enough ways to get the most out of the players that we had available on that field. And I know we were down a bunch of guys, but ultimately, man, that goes on me because we were one. I could have found a way to get a little bit more out of one guy to get us that one more win to get into a regional, and I didn't. And that's what I've learned, that when things, you know, you hear it growing up, don't feel sorry for yourself. And I grew up very in the lower end of middle class, and I was the middle of three, and, you know, I had parents, you could not feel sorry for yourself for long. And I felt sorry for myself and these guys a little too long, and lesson learned. I'm not saying that would have got us into a regional, guys. I'm not saying that we would have saved the year, but that's one of the valuable things that I learned. I really did.
Yeah, and that's something for the podcast listeners to listen to and really learn from right there, because there's a lot of guys, like, we all make mistakes and we all do things and we, man, damn, I wish I would have done this different. I wish I'd done that different. There's a lot of guys that don't have the confidence enough to admit that. And that's one thing, like, I have a lot of respect in hearing guys, especially, you know, coaches say, because I've made mistakes in the past as a coach too, as a player, and all those things right there. And it's easy for us to let that, oh man, we had this and then we just lost this and this, and to get in that mindset. And that's one thing, that's the definition of a good leader. That's like, you know, I could have done something better. I could have done this better. I could have done that better. And you always, instead of pointing the finger at other people, because there's a lot of coaches like this guy, you know, well, I could have done something different, and that could have kind of turned that psyche around. That's awesome stuff right there. And that's something I hope the listeners really take in.
I think I could have managed people better, guys. I really do. I think I could have managed the unit, the 35 or 30 that we had left, and the coaches. I know I could have done a better job managing that, and I didn't.
One thing that I would love to talk about is, like, all your pitching staffs and all the teams that you've coached over the years have dominated. You know, FIU, you guys had led the nation ERA. You had that one guy that led in strikeouts, and, you know, National Pitching Coach of the Year. Yeah. So, like, and I wanted to do a little research on you just to ask that stuff. So what was the difference in how you trained your guys over back then, and how, you know, your guys dominated back then, and obviously now, you know, and the South staffs that have been damn good over the years? Like, what's your development philosophy, and can you point your thing at like one or two things that really say, hey, this is what builds pitchers at this level?
Makeup, right? Makeup, and what hangs between your legs, and what's pumping in your chest. So that those are big. I'm not saying you don't have to be a guy that I would walk down an alley with or go into a bar with. I've had some of those guys that couldn't get an out. Yeah. You've got to have guys that are fearless on the mound. Now, you've got to have talent. Let's start with that.
Yeah.
There's a couple components, man. It's guys that they work, they trust what they do in between. Like, so they trust their work that they've put in between starts or in between appearances. They know that they've worked harder than anyone else in their mind. And then, you know, the nuts and bolts of it is, man, I've always had guys, we are always up in the leaders of hit by pitches. We've always had good ERA. And the years that we weren't one of the leaders in hit by pitches, that's our ERA wasn't great. So they kind of go hand in hand. You've got to pitch inside. So my teams, we are going to pitch inside.
Absolutely.
It's funny, man. In the College World Series, there's 8 teams in the College World Series, and we were there for 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks, I think we had 16 or 17 hit by pitches in 7 games. Right? We had more hit by pitches, just one team, than the rest of the teams did in all their games combined. And I've always been a big believer. Guys are trained. Like, you look at a hitter who's hitting above 300 in college baseball. At that time with the old bats, I used to use 330. If the guy's hitting above 330, he is handling what 90% of the pitching population is doing, and that's throwing away. Fastball, breaking ball away, right? He is handling that. He is showing you that he is, 65% successful or 35% out of the 100% successful, which is high on stuff that everyone does. Well, my big thing is, let's see what they do. I know they're good on balls away, right? Let's see what they do on balls in. And then let's see if we can lower that percentage. Let's make this 350 hitter a 250 hitter this weekend against us by pitching inside and making them honor and not hang out over the plate. So that's one of the things that we've done in my career as a pitching coach is we have pitched inside a lot. And that takes a lot of work. And we've had some, some dicey moments in inter-squad games where, your own guys are getting hit. And it's just, it's that risk and reward. It's a slippery slope, man, when you're, you got Steve Pierce, right? And he's one of the better hitters I've ever seen in college baseball. And you got Steve Pierce up there in an inter-squad game, and this dude, he's got to face, a guy like him at Arkansas, and we can't get him out away. We've got to pitch in, and you might as well do it against a guy that can hurt you right now. And so we would do that in inter-squads, and we would do it in bullpens and flat grounds. And so we pitched in a lot, and a lot of that's mentality. So once guys felt like they could own both sides of the plate, or they could take you to both sides of the plate, you could see that mental strength in that pitcher, that mentality would rise. And whether they threw 84 miles an hour or 94 miles an hour, pitchers that were not afraid to pitch inside, you could just see their confidence and their mentality and their belief in what they were doing rise. And if you can raise confidence, I don't care what you're doing, if you're pitching or if you're a construction worker or you're running your own business, if you have more confidence, man, you're going to be more successful. And that's, that was part of it. That and just working. We worked like crazy. I held them accountable. We worked like crazy. They didn't cut reps. I believe in peer pressure, both in coaching and playing. And it was just like, you guys will, I kind of pounded in their head, you will not be successful. You will be a loser if you cut corners. I just tried to pound it into their heads, and just by omission, man, they just believed in it. I can't cut corners, and I'm going to be a loser. And you can call it Psych 101. I don't know, and I had some good players, and they had heart and balls and everything that it takes and some talent. But just in a winning atmosphere, and you talk about winning, and you work hard, and just that belief goes, and then you stay with them when they do bad. You pick them up when they do bad, and you work on, and you teach, and you correct, and you let them go, and you teach and correct and let them go.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that answers it, but
that's awesome right there. Yeah, that's something as a high school, travel baseball coach, I see all the time. There's two things. They're super uncomfortable throwing inside because they're afraid they're going to hit the guy, or the guy's going to hit a bomb. And then it's almost like it's taboo, like don't throw inside. And as you know, like there are a lot of big swings out there, and you could beat a lot of guys with you don't even have to have 90-mile-an-hour velocity. You got a little two-seam run, you hit your spots in that inside part of the plate. You can beat those guys very often, and especially if they're looking for that off-speed. But you got a pitch that runs to the other side of the plate, you can sneak it in there real quick. And I love hearing that, and that's something that I harp on Bulls guys about all the time. But it's something like you build that confidence inside, and it completely changes your game and opens you up to so many more possibilities as a pitcher. Absolutely.
Plus, the other thing I would tell our guys, there is no such thing as a fastball count. Even if you throw 92, you've got to be able to throw an off-speed pitch for a strike.
Yep.
If you have two off-speed pitch, great. But my guys, they know, like they'll laugh. They're like, hey, who have you heard there's no such thing as a fastball count? Calvi, that's it. I'm like, there in your mind, there is no such thing as we might throw a 2-0 fastball in just to show you that we'll do it for a ball. And you're like, what the hell? And never go back in there again and just work away for the rest of the day. But the ability to be able to throw a 1-0 changeup or a 1-0 breaking ball, or it's not always successful, but when pitchers are predictable, I always said the best pitchers, they have good stuff and they compete in that, yada, yada, yada. But predictably unpredictable, those are the guys that are the best. They'll throw a 1-2 fastball in, not just bounce a slider, and next thing you know, you're at 3-2, and it's like, what?
Yeah, wasting pitches. Yeah,
you haven't done anything except for run your pitch count up and show them your breaking ball 2 more times.
Absolutely. Is that now, Coach? Do you call pitches? Do you have your pitching coach call pitches? Do you let your catchers how do you do that in the program right now?
In the program right now, we've had the pitching coach will call it. Then we've had Jared Barnes. Jared Barnes was a smart kid, so we let him take some pitches in his draft year, and this year Reed Powers was for certain guys he was calling. Powers and Sorrenti were catching, and they would call like Learman and Yarbrough. They would call some guys pitches because I thought they did a great job with that. But for the most part, the onus is on the coach. But with the right guy, and even at FIU, I probably 50% of my years there, I had some really good catchers, some smart guys. And I'd say I call 50% of the pitches at FIU in 11 years. The other 50 to 60%, I let my players do it. Now, we prepared. Those are really before the video. You didn't have much college baseball where you could get DVDs and watch. But it was about preparing and situations and going over hitters and reading swings, having an idea of what a guy was trying to do. Also understanding when it comes back to it, man, you got to work with your pitcher strength.
Yep.
You got to know who you're catching. So, but yeah, we will start with it, but we have given the reins over to a couple guys here.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great. And to touch back kind of on the practice schedule. So I was fortunate enough when we met, when I was still playing, you allowed me to come up there, work out, and it was first class from the very get-go. But one thing I noticed right away, and I text some guys I played with at South, the difference in the practice change. And what I noticed was a lot more efficient time. Competition was ramped up at practice. There wasn't 6 hours practice. It was 2.5, but we're going to go 100% no matter what. And it's going to be station to station. And that's one thing I couldn't compliment you guys enough on. And anybody listening that's here in Mobile is, if you want to learn how to practice, go watch these guys practice. Their practices are open. You go sit in the stands and watch them and pick their brain, even from the stands, of what they're doing, what they're not doing. And I think that's what's propelling these players to the next level. And that's what kind of leads me to this next question is, since you've been there, the wings went up as well as regionals, but also just draft picks in general, and then top 10 draft picks. What has been kind of guys, so you have Travis Swaggerty's the 10th pick overall. Jordan Patterson was a 4th rounder. Ethan Wilson's going to possibly be a 1st rounder next year, maybe a top 10 pick. How are you getting those guys to go to maybe not a non-power 5 school and come to South Alabama, as well as what is that step they're taking to really improve to get to become a top prospect?
Adam, that's a really good question. And we've had a lot of success over the last 10 years with that guy. You mentioned Jordan Patterson. That was really the first one that overlooked, man. He, football, basketball, baseball, the multi-sport guy. I love it. And as I look back, we have a large enough sample size to look back and see some of those guys that we got that you'd say, wow, maybe that kid should have been Swaggerty should have been at LSU, or Donovan should have been at Auburn or Alabama, or these guys, they weren't playing travel ball at 12 and 13. They were playing other sports. They were doing other things. They were working out. They were playing, Babe Ruth. They were playing American Legion or whatever, but they weren't maybe able to afford the amount of money that it took, to play for the summer league, some of them. I think it's just, I've had good assistant coaches. We recruit and we kind of look for a certain type. And a lot of these bigger schools, they're going so early on guys. They're recruiting, rising sophomores and rising freshmen. Hell, I've seen 8th graders commit that they're totally full. When an Ethan Wilson, when he starts to come into his own, they're totally full. And they're like, listen, I can't even watch a kid in his grad class right now because we're 30 over in that class. And that's how we get a guy like Ethan Wilson. Swaggerty was, on Marucci's B team. No one was really watching that. Jerry Zulli was there bearing down. And he's like, Calvi, I'm telling you, man, this kid is like Jeff W. We got to get him. He's overlooked. He throws 92, 93 off the mound, but he's all over. He'll throw it up the backstop, but he's just an athlete and he loves to work. Donovan was a guy, football. They weren't playing. They weren't in some of these travel leagues at 14 and 15. And I think a lot of times you can go too early on a kid, and that's where a lot of mistakes are being made. A lot of it, and that's a whole nother topic. We can talk about. Yeah. I think they should put a limit on when they get recruited. And if you sign a kid, okay, you want to sign a 15-year-old, you're going to honor that. Unless the kid signs a pro contract, you're going to honor that at least for what would have been his freshman year. You'll see teams start to back off, and we'll start losing guys like, Ethan Wilson but that's how we've gotten it. Just being around rising seniors. I have signed that, man. We've signed so many good guys that were rising seniors that now is considered late in the recruiting process. Dylan Hardy, guys like that Dylan Hardy had no Division I offers. Jordan Patterson had no Division I offers. And then I think the second part of your question, I think it's good recruiting. And then I think the second part of your question is, I just think it's the atmosphere here. Like they if they don't work, I get rid of them.
Yep.
If they don't work, I get rid of them. You don't need to come and say, hey, coach, let's go. Can you work with me? You've got to be a self-starter. You got to be in there on your own. I got to come up here at 10 o'clock at night And I got to see guys, I got to see guys I got to hear the bat whacking at 10, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night on a Saturday night. And when I have that, I know we've got the right group. And I've had that a bunch.
Yeah.
Whether I was here with them, I got guys call me on Friday night. Hey, coach, we're at the field right now. Come on up. Let's go. We're going to turn the lights on it. I've been up there on Friday, come back from dinner with my wife. She's like, where are you going? I'm like, I got 8 of them up there. We're hitting live on the field. Come on out. We turn the lights on. They got the boom box and we hit. I've had some great grad assistants that are available to throw at all times to those guys. So it's a work ethic, Adam. It really is. It's not, as you know, we're starting to get into a little bit more of the analytics and things of that nature we were when this pandemic came, but it goes back to old-fashioned workers and guys willing to do what they need to do above and beyond what they need to do when no one's around to make themselves. I'm a big believer. I say this a lot. I like guys that are self-made. Don't ever let a coach take credit for who you are or a person take credit. You must take credit and you must take the blame, and you have got to be self-made because it's sustainable. If someone else has made you, you can't sustain it when they leave. You have got to make yourself. And sometimes that takes longer. Sometimes these guys develop a little bit later. They're not hitting bombs when they're 15. It took them 2 more years because they're playing 2 sports, or they had to work a job they couldn't afford. They couldn't afford to whatever. They had to work a job, and they developed a little bit later, but they're self-made, man. And that's sustainable. And that's who I'm looking for.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I love that stuff. We're on the same page with stuff like that. Like, the analytics and the technology, yes, they're important nowadays, but
Yep.
I want the guy that is self-made. I want the guy that works his butt off, that's doing everything he can to build himself into the best possible athlete, doing the reps. Because a lot of people forget, technology is great and all, and we want to utilize it to our advantage, but baseball is a game of repetition. And anything successful in life, you got to do something over and over and over and over and over and over. And the self-realization and the reps and getting that mind-muscle connection, there's so many things that get involved that you can't figure out by watching a screen. You have to be able to do it yourself, and you have to have the feel. You have to have the understanding of what you're doing and how you're doing it in order to achieve your goal and what you're doing.
I mean, look at you two guys. You two guys are self-made. There's no trust fund.
Yeah.
You guys didn't dip into the trust fund early to open up the academy, right? You guys started with nothing, and look at both of you now. We're sitting here on a freaking podcast, man. It's unbelievable. You guys have kids that are lined up to work with you. You know what I mean? You guys are self-made. And that's just, I don't know. I got so much respect for that. And I just think I use that word a lot in this program, self-made. I like coaches that are self-made. I like players that are self-made. And, again, it's just to get rid of that entitlement nonsense.
So, when it comes to the technology and everything nowadays, and we've touched on it a little bit, like what is it that you guys are utilizing the most, and what do you see as most important with, do you guys use Rhapsody for your bullpens? Is there certain things that you use and you really, really like, and is there certain things you're like, we know what we're doing. We're gonna figure these things out.
We just started that, man, and we need one of the things. And I said to my dog's here with me. You guys know I bring my dog to the office every day. She's ready. I told our guys, I'm like, listen, man, I said, we need to get better. One of the things we need to ramp up it's not just for recruiting. This is for player development, which is what it's about. You got to get good guys. And then if we can help them get better. And now a piece of the coaching puzzle is the analytics, is Rhapsody, TrackMan, blast motion. And I said, it's on us. We've got to know how to do it. We've got to know how to do it. So we were starting, and again, it's about resources. You got to have some. TrackMan's expensive, and so we were starting with the Rhapsody. We just got it, and then the virus came. So yes, I guess we're a little bit late. We're a little bit late to the party, to the analytic party, but we showed up all the same. But yes, I think it's a huge part of it. It's a piece of it. It's like anything else, though. I think if players get too reliant on it, they get away from being able to rely on themselves. They're now starting to look to the computer. Hey, was that a good swing? Well, God, you should know if that, what I mean? You don't need somebody on an iPad telling you should know if that was a good swing or not. But now I get it. Getting on plane, and there's certain things, there are tweaks to the swing that will allow you to hit balls more consistently. That's really important. And from the teaching aspect, that's where we were starting to get on board with that. But again, having guys that can actually feel what they're doing in time and space, those are always your best guys.
Absolutely.
They need to run back and watch the video every time they swing. That's not the guy you want, because,
I agree. I mean, there's a place for that for coaches to use that as a teaching. It's a teaching tool. It's no different than a drill. It's something you utilize for teaching. But you watch and you listen to the big leaguers talk. You know, it's all about feel for them. And then I would always joke around. Like, again, I use technology and we talk about stuff like that and working on increasing exit velocity, all that stuff. But I always talk about, like, what did you feel? What are you doing? I don't care what you think I'm doing. I care about what I think I'm doing and what I'm feeling while I'm achieving. How did I hit that ball in the gap? How did I stay on that slider away? Those things right there, those are the things that I've got to make those adjustments on. And I use my boxing background for feels all the time. And the analogies with that, like, those are things that you can utilize and you can transfer, you know, to help teach other guys, because some guys don't have that feel. Some guys have no idea. So that's kind of the thing that you have to focus on a lot of times. So that's good stuff. Anything you want to add on to that, Adam?
Yeah, and as a hitter, you shouldn't have to go check a screen to see if you hit the ball in the barrel. Like, you have to know where the barrel is, and you have to know that you struck it well. And that's one of the things that does kind of bother me, where even we have the Rapsodo, both the hitting and the pitching, is when a kid's hitting, is we almost tell him he's not allowed to look at the screen until he knows he got into one. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're going to spend your whole time chasing stuff, as well as you're going to chase kind of cage home runs. Well, that went so far in the cage. Well, what really matters is what you do on the field.
Yeah, so and I think, kind of, if I didn't think it was beneficial to our players, and I got it, it would just be fluff. It would be like everyone else. But I really think there's the one guy, 5 guys, all of them. But I really think it can help that one guy who's frustrated and really, like, the light comes on, and that's what we do this for, you know? Yep, so I'm like, okay, it's the onus is on us to know how to use it and how it can. And to me, man, knowledge isn't power. Just because you have TrackMan or Rapsodo, that means nothing. To me, it's the application. If you can apply it, whatever knowledge you have, if you can apply it, to me, that's powerful. You can have all the knowledge in the world. If you cannot apply it, it's nothing. It's weak, you know? So I think for the one guy that it may help, it's on us to have it. And if it helps more than that and helps him recruiting, great. But if it's all about helping a player be better, then I'm all in. And so like I said, we're late to the party, but we showed up all the same. We're going to catch up a little bit with it. Absolutely. Yeah. It's definitely going to help guys understand their strengths, especially when it comes to spin rate with pitchers, understand where to throw in the strike zone, you know, where their strengths are, stuff like that. Like, I love that stuff, you know. Absolutely. I love it. Helps guys a ton. As a coach, that helps you call pitches. Yeah. So if we're trying to make this guy like Zach Green, if I tried to make Zach Green a sinker baller, he'd be no good. Or Dylan Stamey, right? Stamey was nasty, but Stamey, he could throw at your belt, you couldn't touch it. Hey, Dylan, man, don't miss up. Or Ben Taylor, I need you to be down in the zone. That's when they got hit. Yeah. You know? So that gives you they give you a formula or an idea, like, hey, this guy is best throwing 4-seamers. No need to ever go with a 2-seamer with this guy. Just stay with 4-seam, and if he misses up, no big deal. He's going to be effective there. So, that helps a kid achieve what ultimately, through conventional wisdom, you have to, like, no, we can't be up in the zone. You got to be down in the zone. Well, for certain guys, down in the zone is they're a weaker pitcher, you know, or the hitter might be best, you know, especially now you got some guys that are more below the ball, below the center line type, not on top of the ball anymore. So low balls get hit a little bit harder, you know, just like it doesn't make any sense if a guy is super effective with a sinker that you try to make him throw 4 seams up, you know, and it doesn't help him be better. That, to me, that's part of the coaching puzzle. It helps that guy be a better player. I'm all in. Absolutely. And it makes a ton of sense, because now you can kind of basically keep it simple for them, where, hey, we're going to eliminate these 2 pitches because they're literally useless for you. Now you're going to be a 2-pitch guy, and this is your pitches. Or same thing from a hitting standpoint is, hey, you struggle with this zone here, so don't go up there looking for that zone. It needs to be, this is what I'm looking for in hitters count, then I'll adjust from there. That's a good point, Adam. That's a really good point, because, and I'm sorry to interrupt, it simplifies. Like, okay, man, my 30-pitch pen, instead of trying to throw 5 different pitches, I'm throwing 2 right now. And I'm going to make my 2 pitches better, my fastball up and my slider or whatever. So I'm scrapping trying to throw my sinker, my 2-seam that I waste time on. Now I'm working on my bread and butter, my 2 bread and butter pitches, and I get more reps and I'm going to be better. Or a hitter, like you said, the hot and cold zones. All right, I'm going to work more on these. I'm going to get more reps in on this particular pitch than I would, instead of dedicating it to 4 different zones. I'm now just looking 2 zones right now, and I'm going to get great in those 2 zones. So it simplifies it, and I think they look forward to coming out to practice a little bit more. And can we kind of lead into the next question of competitive practices? So we talk about a lot with hitters,
all the time is so many of the hitting is in the cage and it's in a relaxed atmosphere. Was there some days you need to feel good, but the game is hard. And we've talked about this before, Coach, we've got to how can we simulate practice into the game? This is the hardest sport to do it. Where it's football, you can go 7-on-7, you can run scrimmages all the time. Basketball, same thing. Where this is the hardest one to replicate game speed, whether it's competitive batting practice, live at bats, even competitive defensive games where it's not just routine ground balls, it's taking live off the bats. Can you kind of talk about some of the things you guys do at South Alabama to try to treat the practice just like the game?
Yeah, I from a defensive standpoint, and I'm lucky, Coach Luck is phenomenal with the infielders. I think we've put a lot of emphasis on defense and recruiting good players. But when they get here, they get better. And I know Alan was on with you 2 weeks ago, and I know he spoke to that, so I won't go there. But we do a lot. I just think, man, the game is so hard, and I think you can fool yourself by dummying down practice or drills. I think you can get in the box, and the level that you practice at and the level that you're actually facing and you're getting judged on, if the gap is so far, they have a hard time catching up. They have a hard time closing that gap in the 3 seconds they're up there in the box, when the pitch is coming in. Or the time that ground ball is smoked at them, instead of taking the backspin fungo, during in between swings. No, there are no backspin balls hitting the game on the ground. None. They're all topspin hard balls.
Yeah.
So why ever even practice the fungo backspin? Hey, give me a good, soft, manageable. Now I don't want teeth flying everywhere. You know what I mean? But man, if you're going to be winning and losing on this kind of ground ball, then damn it, you need to practice this kind of ground ball.
Yeah.
It's like guys on the right side of the infield, for the most part, 80% of the balls hit on the ground are from a left-handed hitter.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll have some left-handed fungo guys hitting balls to the right side. I won't have a lefty hitting them to the left side because just like the other side, 85% of the balls hit to the left side are hit by right-handed hitters. And they have a certain kind of spin on them. So we try to hit over top of, put top spin on balls because that's where they're going to get in the games. And you really replicate that with batting practice. BP, they're getting live balls off the bat. So we do a lot of that. The pitching, you try there's some guys that they're not ready to work in the bullpen on, okay, I'm throwing fastballs in. They're just trying right now I'm trying to throw a strike, so you got to look where certain guys are at and what they can handle in terms of element of difficulties at practice. But when you have guys that are ready to go, you've got to challenge them. In this particular case, let's say a pitcher, you've got to challenge that guy, Drake Nightingale. He can't just go in there and throw the 15 to 20. He can do that all day long with his eyes closed. You got to say, listen, we are working on 2-pitch combinations, your first 10, 15 pitches. We're working on fastballs in and swing and miss sliders down, not bouncing them, but fastball into a righty, swing and miss slider, right? Just that's over the plate, but down, just inside your catcher's right foot. And those are your first 10 pitches. The next 10 pitches are backdoor breaking ball to a lefty, fastball in. So now he's like, okay, this is what, and then we're going to elevate at the end. So we're going to work on, back or fastball up and away, backdoor breaking ball, back foot slider. You've got to challenge these guys. They can't. Now there's a time and place for, okay, man, touch and feel, 20 pitches, hair on fire, whatever you want. I'm a big believer in that. I'm a big believer in giving them a phase of their pen. And we're talking pitching right now. Listen, this is yours. You call the first 10. The next 10 I'm going to call because we're working on 2-pitch combinations. Fastball in, change up away. Fastball up, backdoor breaking ball. So that's challenging to them. And then I let the catcher call the last 10. I've done that before. So there's different scenarios with their pitchers. In BP, that's the hardest thing to replicate game, man. It is. So we try to, with the pitching machine and the hard breaking balls and, it might, and I'm going to do a little bit more of this where some guys are up, my throwers are up closer and we're working on, hey, you got to catch up to the fastball's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Got to catch up to the fastball today. We're up a little bit closer. Instead of 45 feet, we're at 35 and we're putting something on it.
Mm-hmm.
Beating or your single rhythm in it, we're going to mix in a breaking ball and make you look bad.
Yep.
Because this is going to replicate 94, 95, and you've got to be able to handle it because we see more and more of that. So, the days of all right, here we go, 3 rounds of 5 and just mash it, they're still there. But I just, I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze sometimes with some of those. You got to try to ramp, but also if the drill is so hard, you get guys that are frustrated, and then is that counterproductive? So thing, man, there's that fine line between, you're like, damn, was that too hard? Or like the first 5 guys didn't put a ball in play, man. Is that break ball too nasty? Or so like, listen, guys, we're playing Vanderbilt. We're playing LSU. Yeah. You've got to fit, in the World Series to get there. We want to go to the World Series. You're going to have to handle this, so learn how to deal with failure and be your own cook, figure out how to get the barrel to this ball. I think, again, I think that there's a place for that. And then I think there's a place for like, all right, boys, feel great. We're hitting backside now. Or, if you hit a few home runs, we're pulling some balls, feel great about it. So I think there's a time for that. But the hardest thing to do is replicate game speed for the hitters.
Yep.
Will guys stand in on bullpens, right? They'll stand in. So Drake Nightingale will put the net in front of the hitter because in case, God forbid, one gets away, we put the net. But they're standing in there, and they are tracking pitches, fastballs in, breaking balls. I let guys stand in when guys are throwing bullpens just to track and get a look, because that's game speed.
Yep.
It's not like, okay, man, we're just going to do a touch and feel pen. That's no use standing in there. It's when guys are going at it, I let hitters stand in. Again, we'll put the L net in front of the hitter so nothing can happen, but they just get a chance to look at some pitches. And then, we'll try to inter squad 4 times a week and get some live work in. And, but yeah, I haven't found what's right yet with the hitters going game speed.
Yeah.
God knows we're hitting 203 at the break, and we had some guys coming out of it, but I don't know. We've had some hitters that have excelled here, which lets me know we've done some good things, but you're always looking to be better,
Yeah. And that's true with everybody. Like, I love, like you talk about standing inside of bullpens. Like, I learned how to hit a slider after 2 years at South. Like I feel like I'd hit any fastball, and then I realized they weren't giving me any fastballs, so I had to start standing inside of bullpens. And once I started being able to see the spin sooner than those last couple of years, was like, well, that turned into more of a strength for me. But like standing inside those bullpens and creating that game speed, and that's like the something we do at LT all the time. Is like I'll give them a little bit of an ego round, and then I'll challenge them for as long as I can. And then maybe we'll fit. If they're really struggling, maybe we'll finish with a little bit of the feel so they feel a little confident when they leave. But that's like every coach that we talk to, that it's the hardest thing is recreating that hitting environment you're going to get in the game. It's the hardest thing to do.
The bomb you hit off of Auburn, the walk-off, was it a breaking ball or fastball?
It was actually he threw me 2 junk changeups away, and still to this day, I was like having an outer body experience, and I'm pretty sure it was a fastball alone away, but it could have been a changeup.
But you know what though? To go back to what you're saying, to get to that fastball, you have to lay off. If you were just swinging at if they threw the rosin bag at you, you never even get to that pitch to win the game. Exactly. Walk out. You chase the balls in the dirt that you checked your swing at. Yep. If you're not able to pick it up early, you never get to the ball that you hit into the trees. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, totally. I totally agree with what you're saying. It's about picking that thing up, man. Picking just pitch recognition and then being able to do some damage to it.
Absolutely. And yeah, that's one of those things like when it comes to South and getting South to that next level. And we don't want to keep you on too long today, Coach, but like, what's the next plan for you? Like, what's the next goal? Obviously, Omaha's the goal. What's the next plan in the development process? And obviously, like, the hitting is good. It could definitely be a lot better and get to the level the pitching is. What's the plan to kind of get us into that process and get us to that next level?
It's really it starts and stops with recruiting. It really is. It's about bringing in great players or guys like Jordan Patterson that are just getting it, maybe overlooked a little bit, or Swaggerty or Donovan or Hardy. It's about continue to get guys like that in the program, continue to play the kind of schedule that will get guys ready for the postseason. I think ultimately, man, it's being able to put get enough of the pitchers that can help you beat LSU or Vanderbilt, get enough of those guys on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting the pitching depth. We've kind of had like one good starter and then 2 really good relievers, and we just don't have enough. We're at Florida State, and we're like, we got to beat them twice in the finals, and we just don't have enough. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's having enough on the mound. It's building depth and quality, not just bodies, but guys that can go get outs at Florida State, at Florida. You know, if you got to play South Carolina and you're in there in the regional and you're in a championship game, it's like, hey man, we feel good about it. Our number four guy was like our second number one. We feel good matching up with South Carolina right now with Randy Bell. You know, even though we're on the road, we feel great and we've got good guys in the pen and we match up position player wise. The biggest thing has been matching up. You know, we've had some good guys on the mound. It's having enough of them.
Depth. Yep. And I always say, like, I'll take South Alabama's top guys against anybody's top guys any day. The depth is always the big thing. Like,
yes.
like the Vanderbilt series, like we were pitching in that game. That game was close. We just didn't have the clutch hits and be able to make that change against the defending national champions. So right there in that aspect. Adam, is there anything you want to?
We're going to keep grinding. We're going to keep grinding, man. We're going to keep trying to bring in the best players we can bring in and the toughest dudes we can bring in and play the best schedule we can play and just have them ready to go. And it can be done. That 18 team, who knows? You know, I don't want to go woulda, coulda, shoulda. Talent wise, that was a College World Series position player group.
Mm-hmm.
And we had some College World Series type pitchers on that team. Did we have enough? We'll never know. But it can be done here, man. It's that we're getting that perfect storm team. You know, it can be done. It's just keep grinding and bringing in the best players and put them in situations where they fail and then succeed and fail and succeed and just keep swinging, man. Keep swinging.
Yep. And the last thing I want to touch on, Coach, is you kind of mentioned when you go to recruit a kid or when Coach Calvi, Coach Phillips, or Coach Pro is watching from a pitching standpoint, you want to know what's inside, not just the 92, spotting up, all that kind of stuff. From a position player standpoint, what's kind of the number one things you're looking for? Is it like athleticism, just bat speed? What is it that stands out to you when you're going to watch a position player play?
Yeah, and in the outfield, as you know, this is a big outfield here. I need some guys that can run. What I like. Oh,
me and Sean ran a lot out there.
There you go.
Yeah, a lot.
I like combination guys. So a guy like Jordan Patterson, and I mean, who wouldn't love Jordan Patterson? Maybe that's a bad example, but Brendan Donovan, who was a 6'7" runner and could hit. So he could change the game. He had power. I like hitters that can – you got to have guys that can change the game, whether it be with their feet or with their power. You got to have guys that can hit a double. Either hit it over someone's head or are strong enough to hit it in front of an outfielder where it gets by them, into the gap. So combination type guys, when you look at some of our better guys, the hitters that have been here, they're that. They're not just hit and they're cloggers, guys that are good base runner. Cole Billingsley could play great defense, could hit, and he was a 6'5" runner, but by the way, he was useful. He steal 30, 35 bags a game. He'd drop a bunt. Ethan Wilson, 6'7" runner, but he's one of the better hitters in the country. There's a time and place for that guy that can just whack it and can't really move. But I like guys that the years that we've been really threatening to other teams, big schools, were the years that we had a bunch of combination guys. They don't have to be big. They're strong and fast. They could hit and they could run. So have some, and then having two guys in the outfield that can go get it. You can't have guys that can't get it in this outfield because it gets tough. And then obviously, in the infield, you can't be bad anywhere in the infield. But, it's having combination guys that can pressure the defense. So, okay, you're a good runner, but you're not a great base stealer. Well, if you can score from first on a double, not many guys can do that. Like Dylan Hardy, great runner, not a great base stealer, but he could score on a double from first standing up. Mm-hmm. He could go first to third on a single, second to home, where the outfielder would come up and just, it's Hardy, just throw it into second base. That those run producers, that's what I'm looking for offensively, guys that know how to play offense and that take what they do and excel with that, like, okay, I'm fast. I'm not a great base stealer, but I'm going to be any ball that moves that outfielder, I'm going first to third on.
Yep.
That's kind of where those are the guys that I look for. I do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And for the listeners of the podcast here, like you got a top 25 program coach telling you right now, I want to see guys at work. I want to see you guys that have that work ethic and don't need a guy hounding them constantly to be able to put in the work in. He needs to see quick twitch. He needs to see you run fast. He needs to see hand speed. He's basically telling you be an athlete and be a worker that, can run through a wall. So that's something, and it's something that we hear a lot and hear often, but you're hearing it from a guy that, that is coaching one of these top programs, guys. So, Coach, I want to say thank you for coming on, man. And it's been enjoyable for me having you on here. I always, as a Bulls coach, a travel baseball coach, I never push guys to colleges, but I can only speak from my experience. And, when I went on my visit at South, it was like a second home to me. The atmosphere, the environment, the facilities, they're top notch. And that's something for, guys that are listening here. It's an experience that I, still to this day, me and Adam talk all the time about the experiences we have. And like I'm saying, we're having a conversation with you. Baseball has blessed me with relationships that I take in every single day, and I have nothing but good memories. I didn't know Zuli either, and I had conversations with Zuli. I still talk to him to this day, who's at Alabama now. So
yeah.
This is an experience that I really enjoyed today, and I want to appreciate and thank you for having on. I
love you guys, man. It was an honor being on. Thanks for having me, man. I enjoyed it. Time went by fast.
It did. Yes, sir. It
Yes,
did. Thanks again, Coach, and we'll be seeing you soon.
Okay, guys. See you soon.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, Coach.